Hello everyone, it's Nicole. Welcome back to my channel and another Stamptember limited edition exclusive video. Today features Aall and Create and My Favorite Things stamps. Now, because both of these stamp sets were Christmas or holiday themed, I went ahead and created a very similar style card using two completely different stamp sets. Now, Aall and Create, I hope I'm saying that correctly, is a new company for me, so it was really fun to play with some different stamps. To begin my cards, I am taking a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch panel of smooth white cardstock, and I am die cutting the largest bulb ornament from Hero Arts from the panels. On one of them, I tipped my ornament to the side a little bit, and on the other one, I am going to adhere it straight up and down. It doesn't really matter, it was just a personal preference. Then I'm taking the Spellbinder spray bottle and giving this panel a really good spritz. Oh, and I also went ahead and temporarily adhered that ornament back into the die cut frame shape with a little piece of Post-it tape. Next, we're going to place the panels in this beautiful Dotty Whirlpool embossing folder. This was part of the Stamptember 2024 release for Simon Says Stamp, and we're going to run that through our die cutting machine. Now, the reason I spritz this with water first, I have found, especially with this particular embossing folder, using a heavyweight cardstock, this is a 110-pound weight cardstock, that if I don't spritz it with water first, I don't get the best result. So just a light mist with that sprayer gives you a great result every time. Then I simply let the cardstock sit and air dry. I would probably put something like an acrylic block on top if I had to do it again. Full disclosure, I did not, so it does curl up a little bit, but no worries, it won't hurt anything. So again, I'm spraying this cardstock. We'll run it through the Dotty Whirlpool embossing folder. Now that we have our backgrounds embossed, I'm going to take my images from the Aall and Create and My Favorite Things stamp sets, and I want to lay them out and get a plan for what I want to do. For one of them, from the Aall and Create, I'm going to use the Noel blocks, and I'm also going to use this funny little trio of owls. I thought they were super fun. From My Favorite Things, we're going to use the fireplace, two of the critters, and a sentiment. We're going to go ahead and grab the things that need to be colored first. Now, this is a very color heavy video today since we have a lot of images that need colored. I really personally love challenging myself with things like these two stamp sets that are completely different and how amazing each card turns out, even though they're very different looks from one another. So let's go ahead and stamp everything and start coloring. I did eliminate the stamping from the video just to save time. I stamped all of my images with Hero Arts Intensified Black ink, and then I am using Olo markers to color them in. You're going to see the marker caps on the screen. I will also leave that information down in the description below. I tried to only make subtle differences in my coloring of the owls, keeping them mostly neutral. The majority of our fun color is going to come from the accessories, the funny glasses they're all wearing, stocking caps, scarves, all of that good stuff. I think these are absolutely adorable, and they really have a fun, whimsical vibe to them that I find kind of endearing. So I colored in this first owl, with some neutrals, 7.1, 7.3, and 7.7. Then we're giving some awesome bright turquoise frames with our beautiful BG 2.5, and then we're going to go ahead and shade in those glasses just a little bit. And I'm not going to worry about the eyes. We're going to add a little extra color there. So it's starting to look good, starting to bring life to those images. I am going to take 7.8 for part of the beak, and a little 7.7, which was the darkest color for my owl. Now I will go over the whole thing with a little bit lighter color later, and it does bring out some of the lightness of that particular beak. We're also going to go ahead and do all of their feet at one time with YO 2.5 and 2.7. I'm trying to be pretty careful. This is a smaller type area and the markers are handling it perfectly. I did choose then to do YO 2.7 and 2.5 for the beaks, and I liked that. So I'm just taking my lightest color and going over the beak of the first owl just a little bit, and you can see that it does end up making a nice little highlighted area. I'm going to go ahead and color in part of the hat here on the second owl. I love their stocking caps. I think they're so whimsical and funny. And we're going to use some BG colors for this. And also for the fun scarf. Just adding all of that great color in. I'm going bright and colorful for the colors on this card. So think more modern Christmas. Next, we're going to pull in some red violets for the contrasting stripes on his hat and the palm. And we're using RV 0.2, 4, and 6 for this. And that's really going to bring some nice color into this image as well. For the second owl, I'm going to use a different color combination. This one also is in the O color family, which the O does stand for orange, but a lot of these are very neutral. They're not going to be the bright oranges that you think of. So I love these for all of my neutral critter coloring, especially. And I keep my Olo markers brush to brush with the connector ring in the middle, lots of times with that shading color with it. So if I'm only doing a couple of shades, it makes it very easy for me to just kind of flip the marker back and forth. I don't use a chisel tip on my markers very much, so for me this makes a lot of sense. It really is has more to do with how you color. For the lightest area on the owl's face, I did use 4.1. Okay, so for our third and final owl, I am going to pull out some orange reds. These are very deep and dark again, but just really wanting to get that nice contrast of all of the owls are a different shade, but they're all still, you know, neutral and brown. So we have OR 4.8, 4.7. I do go in and add my darkest color first, and then I start blending out with a mid-tone and usually finish with a light color. You can always go back with your darker and maybe add in some extra shading if you need to. I did just pull in a little O 4.6, which is the darkest color I used on the middle owl, but it's going to be my lightest here. And then I did go back with the dark color just to add in some more detailing. I noticed a couple of areas I felt like just needed a little bit more definition. Okay, now comes the fun part of adding that amazing color to our image. I'm adding a little bit of the yellow to the eyes like I did for the first owl. And then I am going to skip over to the blocks and really try to hit anything with pink at one time. I've already done a little pink on the owls, so I went ahead and did that over here. I think these are going to be really cute to kind of be sitting in front of what I've imagined is this ornament. And The owls will almost look like they're standing on it, but I want them to look like they are part of the ornament, if that makes sense. Next, we have some red shades. And again, all those colors will be listed down below for easy reference. This is my favorite red color combo. So we're going to have a bright red, bright pink, our beautiful turquoisey aqua, and some greens. Then we're going to go over and do some red frames on our third owl with our 1.5. We're also going to add in some color for the hat for the first owl. And I ended up deciding to do his whole hat in red. I originally thought I might not, but we're just going to pull in that 1.7, which is more of a maroon-ish color for the shading, and then we're going to blend out with 1.5. That was where I made my little change partway through, and I like that a lot. And then I'm just going over a few areas in the hat with that dark color again. We're going to do our third block in our aquas, which means our final block will be in green. And I'm just trying to switch around the colors for the letters on each of the blocks with one of the colors. Try not to double up on any of them. Adding in a little green now for the letter in our final block. These are all yellow greens, and they're going to be more in the brighter yellow color family. Again, really sticking with that modern-ish palette of very bright colors. And then an aqua letter. And a pink letter. And then we're going to do some browns for the sides of the block. For the wood non-painted side. It's kind of what I'm imagining. I love how they look kind of rusty and crusty. Okay, let's finish up these owls so we can move on to the My Favorite Things images. I'm going to add in a little color that I noticed around the owl's face there on the second owl. And for the third and final hat, we're going to do some greens. So really just going back to those greens we used on the block. I'm trying to make sure each of those colors is represented not only in the blocks, but in the accessories that the owls are wearing. So we've got kind of the brim of his hat and his pom-pom and the little design in green. And then for the rest of the hat, I'm going to go in with a little bit lighter pink color. So I'm using the lightest pink color that I used from before, but blending out with an even lighter shade, so it's this really pastel pink. Okay, time for My Favorite Things. So this fireplace seems a little intimidating, but I'm going to make it super easy. First, I'm going in with a light brown shade to color in the cookies. And then I'm imagining the rest of that is the frosting on the cookies. So we're going to do a couple of colors for that first. And then we are going to start coloring in our fireplace. To color in the fireplace, we're going to start with the flames first, using some yellow-orange shades, kind of a darkish color. And then we'll start doing the fireplace brickwork itself. Now, I kind of find sometimes that I feel like that's intimidating, but if you break it down, you can totally simplify it. I decided to do mine in shades of brown today instead of in maybe red brickwork, which also would be really fun, and I would do that the same. I guess first I did do the greenery. So I did the green frosting on the cookie as well as the garland or swag there on the fireplace. I like to outline with my dark and blend out with the lighter shade. In this case, I'm really only using 2 colors. Okay, the green looks good. Let's move on to the red of the bow as well as red anywhere else. So we're going to be using my favorite again, our 1.5. I believe that's what I'm using here, and 0.5. I want to hit the Santa hat as well. We'll just do a nice blend. In case I haven't mentioned, I am coloring today on Hammermill 100-pound weight cardstock. This is the recommended cardstock for foiling with like your glimmer machine. And in the past, I've kind of used it for that most of the time. But I have found I am really loving it for alcohol ink coloring. So keep that in mind if you're interested. It's really smooth. And I have found I'm not getting tons of bleeding or anything with my markers. I'm really loving the results. I definitely love my Neenah, but I really like how the markers glide on this paper. I am doing a quick color. Look at how messy those bricks are. Those aren't super particular. I'm also doing the mantle and then kind of the, hearth of the fireplace there. And I am outlining those with my dark color. And then I'm going to go in for both of those areas with my mid-tone and really blend those out, kind of keeping those dark. Then we're going to blend out each brick. And again, I'm not too worried if some of the coloring gets outside of the line because it almost is going to serve as a blender in this case. Just keeping it really quick and easy. And like full disclosure, I colored both of these in one day and in one sitting, and it was a lot of coloring. In real time, the coloring itself took 44 minutes. So I always like to kind of keep that out there and keep it real. That's for 2 cards. And this is a lot of coloring, as I mentioned early in the video. After I have the bricks, I'm going to go in with my light shade and super blend it out. Look at that. It looks like the grout work. I love it. Okay, so there is our fun little fireplace. I'm going to pick a different brown color combination for the logs in the fire, and we're going to use that same color for our dog. I'm going around adding my dark color for him first. I'm going to blend out the logs on the fire and then blend out our sweet little doggy. Got to get some color on these little cuties. And then an even lighter color there, kind of for the face. And I originally did the little spot area light, but I do think I go back and darken that a little bit. It needed to be darker. You can always darken things as needed. So here I'm going back in. We're going to give that a quick fix. Add some little texture with some little dots. Cute, cute. Next, I decided to do a little gray kitty here. So I have some warm grays pulled out. We'll do the cute little ears. I like how they stick out of his Santa hat. And I kept him purposely light so you could see his little face detail. Do a quick little blend. I think I only used a couple of shades of the warm gray. We're going to do some little dots. Ended up doing a couple little stripes on the tail, and then I was like, oh, let's go in and do some little stripes. So I'm going to just do some easy, quick little stripies along the face, and that looks good. Okay, now we're going to go in and we're going to darken back behind the fire in the fireplace. And I think this is what really makes this pop. This step right here kind of brings it all home for me. So I traced around the outside and the fire with my cool gray 9. And then I am blending everything out with Cool Gray 7. So it is 2 shades, but it's really dark. And look at that. That looks so good. Gives it instant depth and dimension. Did some very light cool grays for the brim of the Santa hat. And then I decided to do the frosting on the star in some kind of orangey yellows. So cute. And then I was a little messy, so I'm going around the cookie again with my brown color. A little pink for the cheeks on our kitty cat. And then we definitely need to finish the headband, the little reindeer antlers for our puppy. So just some nice dark browns again. Same shades that I used for him. And then just a little red for the headband. Okay, once we have all of our images colored, we're going to go ahead and die cut those with the coordinating dies. I'm also going to pop my ornament out of the frame. You can see they did curl up just a little bit. And I want to spritz, well, I was going to spritz them with the Frozen Fog Distress Mica Stain, and then I was like, oh, that might be too much. I want this to be very, very minimal. So I'm going to dip my paintbrush into the mixed up bottle, and I'm just going to tap that all over the front panels. Now, from here on out, the process for building our card is the same. Both are going to be ornament shakers. They're just going to have different images and, of course, different sentiments. But both are going to be created the same with the same additional embellishments. Now, something I like to do in my STAMPtember videos is I like to encourage you to dive into your craft stash, and hopefully this encourages you to make something with some of these products. With the exception, of course, of the STAMPtember products and that new embossing folder, the products I'm using are not new. The bulb infinity dies from Hero Arts have been out for a while. These berry stems, I die cut these from white cardstock. This is a Simon Says Stamp die product, and I think these came out maybe last year, if I'm not mistaken, and they are fantastic. So here is what we want to create with that bulb ornament. I'm imagining this beautiful shaker ornament with a fun little, scene inside. And we are going to have it nestled into a bed of holiday greenery. I often talk about telling myself a story when I'm creating a scene card, and this is one of those instances. So for the greenery, I used artichoke and kale positively saturated ink to color those in. For the brown stems, I am using mocha, and then I am just using this Pounce applicator tool from Simon Says Stamp with punch and Cabernet colors for my berries. We're going to be creating 2 sets of this for our card. And I'm being very kind of random with my pouncing because I want some of the berries to be dark and some to be light. Then we're going to pop these out. Now, I did have my temporary post-it tape, on the back to hold those down. It just makes adding my color so much easier. The ornament itself, I want to have some color to it. So for that, I have a beautiful color of ink from Simon Says Stamp. I think I'm using Mist. So it has that aqua shade to it. We used a lot of aqua in our coloring today, and I thought that this would be beautiful. There is the, dew. I used dew. I knew I'd picked the wrong one. I wanted it to have a little bit of that color, but still have the embossing in the background. Most of that is not going to be visible. So, you probably wouldn't have to do that if you don't want to. Okay. I've got my card base here, and I just held my frame in place and then glued the ornament directly to the card base background. On the back of the frame, I am putting some double-sided adhesive. Because I'm going to be backing this with a piece of acetate, I find that double-sided adhesive works better and is way less messy than liquid adhesive on that acetate. So that is what we're going to do there. And I want to position the ornament first so that I know exactly where it goes on the background. Now, if you don't want to fiddle with that, you could always just ink the background of your card and kind of cover the whole area and that would work as well. It just wouldn't have the embossing on it. Now I need to make some decisions. Do I want to put the blocks inside and the owls? And I was like, no, I really like my first idea of kind of having the blocks down along the bottom, tuck in all of this fantastic greenery, and have the owls in the ornament. So that's what we're going to do. I am going to put foam adhesive back behind the blocks. I'm not going to press them really hard down in place yet, and I'm going to start tucking the greenery around my blocks. I have got one big green leafy branch, the brownish branch, and then I'm going to have a berry branch on the right side, another little sprig of greenery, and another smaller berry branch over on the left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put little dabs of glue all over the berries, and I am going to use the embellishment wand to easily pick these up and pop them in place. I started with my fingers and I was like, oh girl, why are you doing that? That's taking forever. So let me get out my embellishment wand. I really like that some of the berries are darker than others. And we are going to dress them up in my most favorite way ever. If you've watched some of my videos, you guys probably have already guessed, or if you looked at the photos before this started, you know what we're going to do once we have this all embellished. Now, there are enough berries for both branches. On this first card, I must have dropped some on the floor or something, although I couldn't find them. They must have got under somewhere because I noticed I was missing a couple. I decided not to die cut them or anything like that because I don't think it's going to be super visible. But I did want to mention it because on the second card, I was much more careful and I had enough berries for both of these. And they hold a lot. If you are looking for a fantastic greenery set for any kind of holiday crafting, this berry stems set is beautiful. I really, really love this. Look at that. It instantly transforms the card, doesn't it? Oh, I love it. Okay, on my card base itself, I am going to go around the ornament. This is one of the benefits of having the ornament on the background is I know exactly what is going to show through that window. And I'm going to frame this up, and I don't know what I'm doing. It's going to be a shaker, so I'm going to have to fix that foam. So hold on while I pull that off and put a different piece down. Okay, so this is our shaker well. And I'm just going to go ahead, peel off the backing paper for this, and we are going to fill it with some of those Northern Lights sequins. Now, fun fact, you guys, I have used every single little bit of these Northern Lights sequins from Simon Says Stamp. I love them. I think they're fantastic. Then I'm going to go ahead and just pop my panel in place. Okay, it is looking super cute. Now, I haven't completely secured my greenery and berries and things yet, so I'm going to put a little bit of glue back behind because I really like the placement, and I am just going to lay that down. This one kind of fell out, so I put a little glue on it, and then we're just going to secure just enough as needed so that it lays down and stays put. And I put my glue press on top of that to hold it down for a minute. Yes, I did. I used a black jelly roll pen to add detail to the eyes. And then I am taking the Tim Holtz white texture paste and a palette knife, and I'm picking up just the tiniest bit of paste and kind of rubbing it onto my greenery, my berries. I want it to look flocked. I want it to look snowy. And so I am going in and I'm just adding this all over. It instantly transforms this entire design. And then I was having so much fun that I was like, oh, let's add some to the top of the blocks too. So I'm going to go all along the top of my blocks, and I work in little bits at a time. And I'm really making it a little messy, a little snowy. Look at that. How cute. Okay, so we do need to do a couple things to finish this off. Our ornament looks cute, our owls look cute, but we need the top of our ornament. So I just die cut the bulb infinity die again from some brushed silver Spellbinders cardstock and cut that little part off and glued it in place. And then I'm taking this turquoise Vivant ribbon from Spellbinders and a bow tool from my friend Chantal of 141 Design and making a 2.5-inch bow. I was going to do a 1.5. I was like, no, that's too small. And I'm glad I went with a 2.5. It fills the top of the card beautifully. It makes a perfect bow every single time. I am going to secure that bow to the top of my ornament with a little liquid glue, using my tweezers to hold that in place and notching or fishtailing the ends of my ribbon. Oh, that one's too long. Redo. And there is the top of our ornament. So stinking cute. Let's go ahead and put together our My Favorite Things card next. Oh, one note. Glossy accents on the glasses. We're going to let that completely dry, and it's going to dry clear and glossy and perfect. Okay, so for the second one, I'm going to cut out a lot of the same steps as far as assembling the acetate, the foam, etc. So I already have the card put together. I put the silver top of the ornament in place, glued that right on top of the acetate. And then we are attaching the fireplace and our critters right there to the acetate window. Again, it's filled with the beautiful Northern Lights sequins. And then we want to build our same greenery down below. Now for this one, there is some coordinating sentiments for the My Favorite Things stamp set, as well as dies that die cut the sentiments. So amazing. So let's go ahead and make another bow really fast with that same turquoise Vivant ribbon. And that way I can go ahead, glue that in place, clamp it right there to the top of my ornament so that it can be securing and drying while I stamp and emboss that sentiment, because I want it to really stand out. With a white card base and background, I really felt like I needed to stamp it on black cardstock and then heat emboss with white embossing powder. So here is the greeting I picked today, and we're going to use all that same greenery. So off camera, I stamped and embossed our beautiful little greeting, and now we're going to do exactly what we did for the first card. We're going to place our sentiment and then tuck all of our greenery around it. Then we're going to take a black jelly roll pen and we are going to add detail to the eyes on our cat and dog. This is really just going to be a very small but subtle difference that makes their eyes pop. We're going to also add a little black jelly roll pen to their noses. And then we're going to grab our white grit paste again, and using just the tip of that palette knife, we're going to flock up our greenery with all of that snow. And again, use a tiny amount. The smaller, the better. It gives you way more control of where that is going to be applied. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for these 2 cards featuring 2 brand new Simon Says Stamp STAMPtember exclusives for 2024 from Aall and Create and My Favorite Things. The supplies I used to create my cards are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye! Thank you so much for joining me today for another paper crafting tutorial. I love being able to share with this incredible community of crafters. I want to give a huge shout out and special thank you to my amazing Patreon members. If you're interested in joining Patreon, please click the link in the description underneath the video here on YouTube. Patreon is a private community where you can support more of what I do. There is exclusive content, information, and behind-the-scenes content. Top-tier members will receive a handmade birthday card during your birthday month, access to D-Stash, and monthly exclusive lives, plus so much more. We would love to have you join our growing community. Please be sure to subscribe to my channel, click that like button, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to always be notified when I have a new video. Thanks for watching!